Okay, we are live. Good evening. First, let me apologize for being so late. This is definitely a lot later than I intended to show up tonight, but this is the end of a very long and very rewarding day for me. And I'm actually going to talk about a different topic tonight than I planned that was inspired by my 7-year-old today. So before I get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Tahira Bell, and you are joining me live for 12 days of communication and confidence. And from now through Christmas Eve, we're going to be talking about what you can do as a parent to improve any communication blocks or barriers to close communication with your teen girl, and also how to communicate with her in order to build confidence, okay? Throughout these 11 days remaining, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to direct message me or post in the chat box. I've got it up today so that I can see any questions that come in. But I'm looking forward to getting to know you and supporting you through this time that we have together coming up to the holidays. Okay, can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure that everything is good. All right, we'll get started. So let me tell you, today we had a holiday concert at our school. So my second grader was in a performance where he had to dance. And he likes to dance. He dances at school and he enjoys it. It's something that's fun for him. But what was new and a little scary for him tonight, well, today, it was this afternoon, was having to dance with a girl. And I remember the first day he came home, he said, "Mommy, I don't want to do the holiday concert this year." And that was why. He did not want to dance with a girl. The thought of that was so embarrassing to him. He was so worried about what everybody would say. He thought, his friends would laugh at him. And he said it just felt really weird. He was done, didn't want anything to do with it. Well, obviously he made it through. He had his dress rehearsal yesterday and everything was fine. He said he wasn't embarrassed. He was really excited for the performance today. He did a great job. And after the show, when I went to, go meet him afterwards and speak to him about it, it was so funny. This is what he said to me. He said, "Mommy, I was really embarrassed and I was really nervous, but I pretended it was the dress rehearsal and then I was okay." I said, okay, Jacob, tell me more. Like, what's that all about? How did it make a difference for you? And I loved it because what he said was that pretending it was the dress rehearsal made it more fun. And so I had to think about it. When he's performing in the dress rehearsal, it's in front of his teachers, his friends, his community where he feels supported and safe. Whereas today, all the parents were there. Anyone who was invited to the show was there. He had no control of who was in the audience and who would be seeing him do something that was a little uncomfortable. And what he did, without knowing it, I'd love to say I coached him through this and take full credit, but that's not what happened at all. What he did was change the story he was telling himself. So instead of making it about, "I'm nervous for who's going to see me dance," it became, "I can get out there and do my thing because these are my people. This is my community where I'm safe, where I'm loved, where I'm comfortable." And he said, I had to trick my brain. And it was so funny to me because that's exactly what it takes to have the confidence to go after the things that are sometimes really uncomfortable, that bring some fear. A lot of the girls that I work with may be nervous about standing up in front of the class and giving a presentation. And that's pretty much what I tell them in so many ways. What can we do to change the story that you're telling yourself about this thing that is so scary for you? And so it got me thinking, because what I really wanted to share with you all as a result of, the whole conversation I had with my son today was that we really do, and I said this yesterday, and I'm sure I'll say it again, but we really, really do have a precious opportunity to speak to our children in a way that builds their confidence. But here's the thing. We really have, I did this again. Sorry about that. We really have to start by looking within ourselves. Okay, and let me explain what I mean. A lot of times it's really easy to say, you know what, he's scared to do this, or she doesn't want to do that. My daughter's not confident, right? But do we really take the time to evaluate what we're feeling, what we're going through, what we're thinking? Okay, because a lot of times what happens is if we're struggling with something, in this example, confidence, they'll probably struggle with it too. And so I thought about a time that I had to be in a fashion show, right? It was about almost 11 years ago. My oldest son was a baby, and I literally did not want to do this fashion show because he was maybe 4 months, 6 months old at the most. And you know how it is after you have a baby, you've gained weight, you just aren't really feeling your best. At least I wasn't. You know, I just had this whole new body I didn't really know anything about, and I didn't really like it. So I certainly didn't want to be, parading down a runway. And I had to do the same thing as my son and not make it about me and how I looked and how I felt, right? Because it wasn't that great. I had to really think, this is about the cause that we're raising money for. This is about the charity. This is about having fun. I've never modeled before. This could be fun, right? It was about the diamonds I got to wear and all the amazing jewelry and the fun clothes and, getting fitted for just amazing outfits. And so once I shifted what I was telling myself about the experience and took the pressure off of me and made it more about them and who I was serving in that instance, we were actually raising money. I don't remember exactly what for, but it was a fundraiser. And just showcasing local businesses and, the clothing and jewelry that they sold. So it was a great event. It was a lot of fun. I got to do it with my husband, and it changed everything about my perspective about it. So what that really does and what that really means for you and for me as a parent, in that instance, my son was too young to know what was going on. But what if instead of being, the infant that he was, what if he was a 12-year-old girl? What if he was my daughter in her teen years watching me? I might not have a single conversation with her, right, as my daughter, if I had a daughter in that instance. But think about the times when your daughters are around you and seeing you do life and watching the decisions that you make. Even if you don't tell them directly, they're watching, they're hearing, they're absorbing everything. They know. So imagine if I decided not to do the fashion show. What's the message that I would have sent then? Even if she didn't know why, right? She would just say, she'd come up with her own story. But it would have something to do with the fact that, my mom didn't do it. And then that would give her permission when she's faced with something maybe a little daunting or uncomfortable or scary or whatever the case may be. I would have just given her the permission not to do it. And so that's what you don't want to do, okay? We want to do just the opposite. We want to take this time that we have with our daughters, our children, really, right? Because this applies for boys too. We want to take advantage of the things that we can do in our own lives that they can learn from. Hi, Hattie. I'm looking to see who joined now. I'm sorry, I forgot to say hello. Malika, Sharon, Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you joining us today. Hattie, it's been forever. We have got to catch up. Where was I? Okay, I want to talk more about what a confident parent looks like, okay? So when we're parenting our children and when they are observing what we're doing in our lives, we're sending messages to them knowing or unknowing, okay? So building their confidence really is going to come back to us as parents probably a lot more than we want it to. And so use this to your advantage. Use this as an opportunity to really chase your own dreams, to really pursue the things that maybe scare you a little bit, and that it's really easy to talk yourself out of because we're busy, right? We have work, we have obligations outside of the home, we have obligations inside of the home. We're so busy, there's never enough time. But if we can show our girls that we're confident enough, we're empowered enough to chase our own dreams, then we're also giving them permission to do the same. They can then confidently pursue their own dreams, right? So as their mother, we have to model protecting and honoring those boundaries, okay? When you feel like there's no time, because I know if you're anything like me, I mean, you saw I was an hour late doing this broadcast today, right? There's never enough time. You know, sometimes it looks like getting up 30 minutes early. Sometimes it looks like saying no to something for someone else and saying yes to something for yourself. I think about it this way. When your daughter's 18 or when your child is 18 and leaving the house, do you want them feeling guilt that you didn't have the time to do anything for yourself because you were so busy doing things for them? Think about if that's going to empower her to make decisions for herself, even when she has a family, right? You don't want them to leave feeling like you have no life outside of them. So go after the things that matter to you, and that'll help make them more confident in going after the things that matter to them. Okay? Have I said it enough? So tonight's point that I really, really want to hit home for you guys is, what does it look like to be a confident parent? And I wrote out a list for you. Let me read it so I make sure I don't misspeak. But there are a couple things that I think we can keep in mind when it comes to really being a confident parent, okay? First, choose your battles, okay? Choose your battles, but don't budge on an area of focus, okay? What do I mean by that? If something's a priority in your home, as a family, for yourself, for your children, those are the things you don't compromise. If that's something you're focusing on in that moment, whatever it is that you're dedicated and committed to, don't budge. Honor that for yourself. Honor that for them, okay? Second thing, don't give up on them. They want to know that you really do love them enough not to give up on them. They want to know, even if they don't say it, that you're not going to let them walk all over you. I literally tell my parents, don't be afraid to be the parent. And I know how hard it is, especially now that I have children as my own, because we get overwhelmed, we get tired, and sometimes it's just a lot easier to give in than to really hold our ground for the things that we say, right? It's harder to really say what you mean and mean what you say than to just go with the flow sometimes, right? Okay, here's the third thing. Yesterday we talked about the coaching analogy and how coaches, And I think I was using a basketball coach as an example. They really begin with the end in mind. As a parent, it's really important to think about, what do you want your legacy to be with your child? And I don't mean anything, big and complex. It could be really simple. What do you want them to remember most about you? What do you want them to remember that you said? I do this all the time, and it's kind of hard sometimes to stay true to what I say I want it to be. So I actually journal about it and just make sure that I keep what I want them to remember about me as something that I'm intentionally doing literally in our day-to-day lives, okay? When they're gone, you want to be able to look back and say, you know what? I really did do my best. I really did do my best. Don't give up on them, right? Okay, here's the fourth one. Don't be a hypocrite. Okay, that whole do as I say, not as I do, that really doesn't work. Now, I'm not saying that it won't get your child or your teen specifically, right, to oblige. They will do what you tell them to do. There are very successful families whose parents have ruled with an iron fist. I get that. But here's the thing. When you're specifically talking about teenagers, if they think you're a hypocrite, it's not going to build the connection and the trust. That's really the point of what we're talking about for these 12 days, right? So if the goal is connection, if the goal is trust, if the goal is that relationship where they are going to come to you with those things that you really want to know that are going on in their lives, that's not the best way to do it, okay? Don't be a hypocrite. All right, 2 more. This is the hardest one for me. Don't let it slide, and it can be whatever it is that you said has to be the lesson that they're going to learn. Because here's the thing. If we just let it slide and don't let them learn the lesson, or don't teach them the lesson, who will? Who will, right? It is the truth. We had literally tonight, one of the reasons I was late, we had an indoor soccer game for my other son, not the one I told you the story about, and he did not have his cleats. He had $200 cleats that he got for his birthday, specifically for when the indoor season came, right? We told him to be responsible for them. He decided to show them off to his friends, take them to soccer practice, and ultimately someone stole them out of his bag. Now, we could have replaced them, but then he never would have learned the lesson. You can't let it slide if there's a lesson behind it. Does that make sense? Okay. Sometimes, when you're in the heat of the moment, here's a quick tip for you. When you know better, but you cave in, and I do it all the time. And teenagers are so persuasive, right? Here's something you can do, and you can write this down so you don't forget. I need a minute to think about it. I talk a lot to my girls about inserting a pause. Sometimes you just need a pause. And so if you feel yourself kind of getting to that place where you're like, oh my gosh, yes, just yes to whatever it is that you need, just yes, so you can go away, or you know how it is, right? You just kind of give in so that they could just stop hounding you, right? Instead of letting yourself get to that place, that's when you say, you know what, I need a minute to think about it. And, for me, this is especially true when I get overwhelmed, because life just throws so much at you that you just get overwhelmed sometimes. And you end up making decisions you didn't want to make. So give yourself permission to say, I need a minute. Then you can go get yourself grounded and remember what the point is. What's the lesson you really wanted them to learn? What's the real reason you said no in the first place, right? Before they kept coming to press you on it, okay? Here's the last one, and this one is pretty much what we talked about yesterday. Yesterday, I spent a lot of time talking about how critical it is to listen, to really listen to your teens when she comes to you and speaks and shares and tells you things. Really take the time to listen. When you have a teenager who really knows that, you as her mom or you as her dad are really present with them, they're going to trust you more. Okay? There's nothing better that you can give another person than your time, right? Time is that one thing you can never get back. So if you're really, putting down the phone, listening without being distracted, okay, that's the first step to really being present with her. But here's the second step, and we talked a little bit about intuition and being able to trust your judgment as a parent yesterday. Sometimes when you're speaking to her and just, she's got so much going on in her world, listening and really being present means also really tuning in to what she may not be saying. So, sometimes it looks like looking beyond all the crankiness. Sometimes it looks like not feeding and putting so much focus on the attitude, right? Because we know so much of what causes that. And I'm not saying to just, let your teens walk all over you, but just really listen with the full picture of what's actually going on in her world. When's the last time you really thought about what was going on in her world? When their interests match ours, it's easy. It's easy to talk about, right? But when there's something that is just so not interesting to you or so completely unlike anything you're interested in talking about, it's a lot harder to engage. It's a lot harder to be present. But that's the best time to give her your attention, okay? So, Dad, it might mean walking around the mall with her, right? Or for me, with my kids, they're boys, it might mean dribbling a basketball or tossing a football in the yard. Because guess what? Sometimes they open up more when you're not asking them to talk. There's just a lot of pressure sometimes that goes into sitting down and having that conversation. And if you find, maybe she's not talking to you, maybe she's not opening up to you in the way that you want, go for a car ride. Don't turn on the music, right? It takes the pressure off of both of you. Sometimes things can just happen really organically, and then the conversation can begin to flow, okay? If you've got a more active daughter, she plays basketball, she plays soccer, she likes to run, get out there and do that with her. Get immersed in her world, see what she likes, see what she loves, and connect on that level, okay? Any questions for tonight, feel free to post them. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to the replay viewers. Again, this is 12 days of confidence and communication. I think I just said it backwards. 12 days of communication and confidence. And we're going to be talking about what you can do as a parent to help improve communication between you and your teen daughter, and what you can do to communicate and help communicate with her in a way that builds her confidence, okay? Thank you so much for being here. That's all for tonight, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Bye.